So today The Boys released its final ever episode, the big season 5 finale. Here are my thoughts. As usual, I'm just going to be upfront. This episode was a rushed, poorly paced, visually unsatisfying, tonally inconsistent disappointment, though be it one that did, to be fair, deliver several very good individual moments. I did my best in making this video to stick to reviewing the episode purely on its own merit versus as a part of Season 5, saving my full Season 5 review for another video. Unfortunately, though, that does not change much of anything. I did a reaction video to leaks about this particular episode a couple days ago and said in that video that if the leaks were accurate, particularly the bits about how Eric Kripke went all out budget-wise on making the finale a spectacle of bloody, gory violence involving Homelander's unaliving reporters and later the military before battling the boys, Ryan, their allies, and the Gen V kids, then it would be an imperfect but still very satisfying finale. However, it turned out that most of those leaks were a million miles off base, and I do not mean that in a what we got was better way. I mean it in a what we got was garbage that wishes it were half as epic as those leaks suggested way. Instead of opening on the boys making a dramatic decision to honor Frenchie's memory by making one final push to unalive Homelander like in the leaks, it opens on a memorial for Frenchie wherein Huey reads a last will written by Frenchie in which he confesses, I'm not making this up, that he's seen the butts of everyone on the team. It's literally like a poorly executed James Gunn joke meant to strategically undercut tension, something you would see in nowhere shows like Peacemaker or the Guardians of the Galaxy films. Instead of epic scenes of Homelander's unaliving reporters on the White House lawn for not getting on board when he announced himself as God, we got a discount State of the Union video wherein he's sitting behind a desk threatened to do that if people tried to rise up against him. In fact, in this episode, Homelander only actually unalived one person, one of his own billionaire supporters. He did it off screen, and he did it just because he was annoyed that the guy was trying to win favor with him. Instead of the Gen V kids being actively involved in stopping Homelander, like in those leaks, we got the Gen V kids driving a truck full of those refugees whom they helped shelter last episode to safety in Canada. And I already know what the Shields are going to say now, that Starlight and the boys made a strategic decision to keep the Gen V kids at arm's length because the plan to unalive Homelander was likely to fail, and because there needed to be backup heroes for in case the boys and the others who went on the mission to stop Homelander did not come back alive. And that is very true. But it also does not excuse that the Gen V kids still should have had more of a presence in this season before Homelander got the V1 and became practically unstoppable, especially after Gen V Season 2's ending tease. Those characters should have had a larger payoff and presence. Instead of the scorched earth, shock and awe, blood and bone finale that this show has been promising since Season 3's first episode, there was one ruined room. Homelander once swore to Starlight in Season 3 that if she ever released the Flight 37 video of him, or if people ever ceased to love him, he would settle for fear instead and would destroy America's nerve systems of communication and defense before wiping New York City and other major locales off the face of the planet. This entire season was even marketed by the showrunner as being the show's version of the apocalypse, and promotional images for it displayed a skyscraper in ruins and Homelanders hovering over Earth bathed in nuclear fire. Yet in the final battle, Homelander doesn't even wreck one building. No, the final conflict came to a glorified fistfight in the Oval Office between Homelander, Butcher, Kimiko, and later Ryan, who for that matter just shows up during the fight and seems to magically know all about how Kimiko now has the chest blast power like Soldier Boy, and to magically know that Butcher and Kimiko are planning to use it to depower Homelander. Meanwhile, the power scaling in the fight itself is absolutely ridiculous. Homelander, despite being on V1 and supposedly stronger than he was during his similar fight with Soldier Boy, Butcher, and Huey in Season 3, appeared even weaker during the final fight than he was when he just had regular Compound V in his veins. His laser vision should have cut Kimiko and Butcher in half, and has been displayed to have that sort of power in previous episodes. But both of them take repeated laser blasts from him in this episode without feeling much of anything besides some impact damage. Equally ridiculous is the way that Frenchie appears in a vision to Kimiko, Angel style, to talk her through using her chest blast to depower Homelander. Tossing in the Billy Butcher heel turn to villainy in the last, 20 minutes of the story was a major mistake, and one that caused the twist to not land even a little with me. So basically, just because Ryan decides that he does not want anything to do with Butcher after Homelander is gone, and because Terror passes away, and because Butcher hears that Stan Edgar is planning a return to power, Butcher just magically decides that he needs to use the virus, which he still has, to unalive all Supes to prevent the next Homelander from being created, which he plans to do by unleashing the virus in Vought Tower's sprinkler system. It all just happened far too fast to hit with any resonance. Consequently, I felt nothing when Butcher fought Huey over the detonator, or when he hesitated before using the detonator, or when Huey ultimately unalived him, or even when he made his final peace with Huey before passing away. Instead of appreciating those moments, or even the makeshift funeral for Butcher at the end, I just found myself wondering how Huey, who confronted Butcher alone in Vought Tower, managed to get Butcher's body back out alone, or how Huey managed to get the virus out of the sprinkler system, or if Huey managed to get the virus out of the sprinkler system, or what even happened to the virus, if it's being set up for its own spin-off series or something. And the worst part of it all is that there is a version of this story that works. The material itself is not inherently bad. It just lacked the proper room to breathe. If the writers had just been a little more conscientious about pacing this season, say spent maybe 2 episodes fewer on setting up the Vought Rising spin-off show, done the final confrontation with Homelander in episode 6, then use the final 2 episodes to do a Boys versus Butcher storyline, wherein the boys have to stop Butcher from using the virus to unalive all Supes on Earth, it probably would have worked as an epic finale, the Huey versus Butcher confrontation. Anyway, I don't really have much against the ending montage. MM remarries his ex-wife and basically adopts Ryan, who has been depowered and who it seems will finally get that normal family life that he's never had before. Kimiko adopts a dog and enjoys food in France in memory of Frenchie. Butcher is buried next to Becca. Huey turns down an opportunity to lead a new and more legitimate Bureau of Supe Affairs under a newly installed president, Bob Singer, who I guess got out of prison after the Homelander of it all, and instead starts his own electronics store while preparing to have a baby with Annie. It's all abidingly basic and unsurprisingly happy ending material. Except that it is a little weird how Huey and Annie apparently make a mutual decision to name their baby after Huey's ex-girlfriend Robin, who was unalived by A-Train in the pilot episode. The last scene, I believe, even takes place on the same street, that same general area where Robin was unalived by A-Train, and it's supposed to be perfect symmetry, a perfect bookend to that, in that Huey and Annie find happiness on that street. But I cannot see how most realistic girlfriends or wives would be completely okay with naming their kid after their boyfriend or their husband's ex. Especially a girlfriend or a wife as anal retentive and high maintenance and fault finding as Annie has been portrayed as being throughout this entire show. Bottom line though, if I had to sum up this episode, I would say that it was rushed, underwhelming, and predictable, safe. Not one curveball got thrown, not one risky or out-of-the-box writing decision was made, nothing close to what you would expect from the series finale of a show with the quality heights that The Boys reached in especially season 1, but also to a lesser degree seasons 2 and 3. It's more like what you would expect from a standard CW or ABC network dramedy, though one where more blood and swearing are allowed. That said, I don't want to close without giving airtime to those things that this episode did do very well, because again, in all fairness, there were several. Though I feel like the fact that they were all scenes involving characters getting unalived might be saying something. Homelander's unaliving was perfect, for example. The way that he's depowered, realizes what it's like to be human, then ultimately dies like a pansy on national television while begging Butcher for his life and offering to eat literal crap if Butcher will just let him live. It's so perfectly within Homelander's pathetic character, and it masterfully pays off A-Train's final words to him in episode 1 about how without his powers he's nothing but a pathetic loser. And then it's all topped off even more masterfully when Butcher unalives him exactly like in the source material comics. The Deep's unaliving was equally satisfying, the way that it happens by Starlight's hand after she gives him one last chance to change, and after the viewer gets the final confirmation that the Deep is indeed a despicable piece of filth who will never change. The way that Starlight blasts him into the ocean, where all nearby aquatic life poetically unalives him in a manner resembling how he unalived Adam Bork a few episodes ago, was particularly great. Extra points because it's an octopus who does the unaliving, and because it's done specifically in retaliation for his unaliving Ambrosius back in season 4. I do have to point out though that it makes no sense how aquatic life would know about what he did to Ambrosius, given that there were no witnesses to that in Vought Tower when he did it. Also, the aquatic creatures seem in this episode to solely hate him for unaliving Ambrosius instead of the oil spill from episode 6, which basically runs counter to what the shark, voiced by Sam Jackson, said to the Deep in the previous episode about why they hated him. And of course, I've got to question how all those dumb and undercephalized sea animals are able to perfectly coordinate and attack the Deep for revenge. How they'd even be in contact with sea animals from all the way in Alaska who knew about the oil spill and blamed the Deep for it. Butcher's unaliving scene, while not as strong as Homelander's, was practically perfect within its own context. I said when reacting to those leaks a couple days ago that I'd see it as a mistake if Butcher lived through the finale and ended up trying to get peace in Hawaii or whatever. As Ryan told Butcher during the finale, he is not a good man. Really, I think one of the core aspects of The Boys as a show is the dichotomy between Huey and Butcher, that while Huey is deep down a good man capable of making bad decisions when the wrong people are around him, Butcher is deep down a bad man capable of making good decisions when the right people are around him. I still maintain that the ending with him and the virus was too rushed to be effective, but it does not change that after everything that Butcher has done and everything that he is, the only sensible way for his story in this series to end was with his being unalived, probably in combat that is possibly between him and one of his own allies who are not as insane as he is. One minor final thing, I did like the way that this story handled Ashley and that whole storyline with her. I've said before many times that I do not and never have liked Ashley's character. It did finally give her something of a redemption arc by letting her make the right decision and save the boys' lives on one occasion. You could argue that she's basically paying it all back at once, all the dirty things she does or she has done over the course of the series, in enabling the boys to finally stop Homelander. But I still like the fact that she did not leave this season and this series unscathed, in that she got impeached and probably sent to jail. I think it's also telling that right before she got impeached, even though she had made that positive character development, she still insisted underhandedly on being the president and refused to admit to any wrongdoing. Kind of shows you that she, like the Deep, will probably never change really anyway. But at any rate, that's all I've got. That's my review of The Boys Season 5, Episode 8. I wish I could say that it was a worthy ride, but the truth is that it wasn't. And a few solid moments do not change that. Nevertheless, sound off in the comments to let me know what you thought of this episode. If you agree with my assessment, if you disagree, if your feelings are more complex. And when you're done, don't forget to like and subscribe for more.